I'm Cam Williams. I studied English at BYU. I left BYU, I believe it was 2008. Graduated from UVU in 2011 in English creative writing. For most of the time that I was on campus, I was in the closet, like even to myself. Couldn't really admit it most of the time I was there. There was about a year where I had come out and I had a boyfriend, which made it difficult. You can't tell any of your classmates. I also worked there. I couldn't tell any of my coworkers, even coworkers I was close with, it's just weird having to avoid questions like, do you have a girlfriend? Oh no. Do you want to date so-and-so? No. Well, why not? No, I just don't want to. It's just such a weird environment to look back on. And I've been away from it so long now that it's been a long time since I've thought about a lot of it. Well, everything pretty much is better than when I was a student. I am in a much better place now, in all regards, financially, mentally, relationship-wise. My relationship with my family and friends. It's all a lot healthier now than it was when I was at BYU. I identify as gay, so I feel like it's the gay experience of just having secrets growing up, learning in your adulthood to let go of secrets. So my BYU experience is just me holding in secrets. And I think that's one reason why I'm such an introvert, why I'm so shy and not a very social person. Even though I can be in certain situations, but I grew up in Provo, so growing up in the heart of BYU country and Mormonism, just teaching myself to not reveal too much. So my time at BYU was very, very similar in that way. I didn't have friends when I was at BYU. I didn't have friends at all until I decided to come out, and that's when I met my boyfriend, now husband, who had a social network and helped me to build my own social network with him. So that was really just an awakening for me when I did decide to come out. It was there's good and bad, of course. For me, it was good. Like I mentioned, the good thing about coming out, I expanded my social network 200% because I had no friends and I suddenly went to having a whole bunch. It was such an awakening to me of, this is fun, being who you are and seeing other people being ways that you've always tried to hide. Of course, the flip side of that, there were negatives. I came out to a cousin that I thought that I could trust. He ended up telling his father because he was so worried about my soul. So his father, being the very religious person that he was, said that they needed to tell my bishop. At the time, my bishop was my father. So they called my dad, and that's how I came out to my family involuntarily. At the time, my parents, very well-meaning, always very loving people, but at the time they didn't understand. They wanted me to fix it. So they sent me to a therapist at LDS Family Services who talked to me about trying to change, conversion therapy, basically. I had one meeting with this therapist. He knew that I didn't want to change, and he somewhat angrily told me never to come back, which I was very grateful for. I was able to go back home to my parents and report, yeah, the therapist doesn't want me to ever come back. And they were like, why? And I was like, well, I don't think there's anything wrong with me, and that didn't sit well with them at first. But that's one way things have changed. They've come a long way and are a lot more understanding. But that was the very difficult part of it. So there were highs and lows. It was such an emotionally and mentally trying time. It made my pursuit of education very difficult because I had to deal with all of these emotional and mental issues on the side that I felt like a lot of the other students weren't experiencing to the same degree. So yeah, it was both a good experience and a very bad one. The mission was pretty good, mainly because I went to a tropical location. I think if I hadn't been in such a beautiful tropical paradise, I might have suffered a little more mentally and probably would have come home early if I'd gone to Oklahoma. Nothing against it, but it probably just would have been too much like my normal life, and I would have just had a hard time come home. One thing that I thought was like difficult about the mission was just constantly being with heterosexual men. Growing up, I always like any friends that I did have. I didn't have many because I didn't show myself. Like I was so closed in that like even in elementary school, I didn't have like close friends because I just was so afraid of revealing too much about who I was. But on the mission, it was just so weird because any friends that I had before were all women. I was not close with any like male heterosexual people. And so being with at least one 24/7 was unusual. I was such an immature person back then. So I got into a lot of arguments on my mission with other missionaries, and I didn't know how to deal with people because like I said, I didn't socialize much when I was a kid. I didn't know how to behave, but it was overall a good experience. I loved my time out there. When I look back on my mission, I look back on the secular positives of it, the locale of where I was, the people that I met, how beautiful everything was, the food that was okay, the language that I spoke, all the things like that, fun experiences that I had. I look back on those. The religious aspect of it, I don't spend much time thinking about that. I don't go back and read my missionary journals because it's all forced testimony. My letters to home, I don't read those just because I felt like I had to like talk about certain things, or my family would be like, well, what are you doing out there? When I was a student, I was an active member of the church, of course. I was very active up until I decided to be honest with myself and come out to myself. That's when I realized a lot of the things that I was doing in the church, I realized I was only doing for my family. The big revelation to me was I thought about it a lot, and everything that was taught to me in the church never sat right with me and always only made me feel bad growing up. Didn't really have any positive feelings about the church, and I realized, why am I spending so much energy on something that doesn't make me happy and something that I don't even know that I believe in? And why am I spending my energy on this? And so I decided to be more authentic to myself. Of course, that was complicated with BYU because while I wanted to be more honest about who I was and didn't enjoy the church, I couldn't stop because my education was being held at bay. I think a lot of people don't understand why a gay person would want to go to BYU. At the time that I enrolled, I didn't identify as gay. Of course I was, but I didn't want to admit that to myself even, let alone anyone else. So at the time I enrolled, I was trying to be the good Mormon boy, and that's what good Mormon boys do, is go to BYU. Of course, that all changed at 23, and I found myself in a very different situation. So at that time, I had to like kind of essentially become a liar, and still put forth effort into being seen at church. By the time I was 23, I had moved out and was in a BYU ward, so I made sure that the bishop or branch president, whatever they were back then, in the BYU ward saw me at church once a month. I made sure that I was seen once a month so that when I went in for my ecclesiastical endorsement, he could be like, all right, yeah, I've seen you at church. The rest of the time, I didn't want to do that. In the same time frame, I had also met the man that became my boyfriend and now my husband. Of course, that was taking up a lot of my attention. And I didn't want to waste that attention on something I didn't believe in. So I didn't want to spend a Sunday at church if I didn't have to. I didn't want to have to take more religion classes at BYU if I felt like it was not going to do me any good, you know? Spiritually now, I would say that I am an atheist. I take the most comfort in just saying I don't know. I think the phrase I don't know is very comforting to me. My mom, she's had a hard time with the gay thing, of course, but I think the harder thing for her is me not being able to participate in the church. I also have a sister who has left the church, and she gives my sister a lot harder of a time about it than she does me because I have views. Even if my mom badgered me to come back to church, so because I've got a husband. So yes, at this point in time, I identify as atheist. I think it's more comforting that there is no plan to this because there's so much that's awful in the world, and it makes me feel better thinking that it's no one's fault. I think it's more comforting to just think the world, the universe, everything is what it is, and we make of it what it is. I believe in humanity. It's very hard sometimes, especially these days, to believe in humanity. But to a large degree, I believe that humanity is capable of great things, of great kindness. And so that's what I believe in. I can see humanity. I can influence humanity in certain ways. I can be mindful of my own humanity. So that's what I believe in. Have anything helpful, my only advice would be don't get out of BYU as soon as you can. I wish that I had gotten out of BYU a lot sooner than I had. I wish I had never applied there. That would have saved me a lot of grief, a lot of anxiety. It took me probably 10 plus years to get a bachelor's degree in English because of all the anxiety and mental anguish and everything that I went through. I mean, of course, there's also transferring from one school to another, you lose certain credits. So that sets you back as well. But just I felt like I was set back even further just by all the difficulty of the situation. I just couldn't focus on getting good grades. I had to also focus on my life that was falling apart. And enjoying the new aspects of this new world that I was allowing myself to be a part of. So it's a lot.